Okay, and we are live. Welcome to Tetrate Tech Talks. Tetrate Tech Talks is a weekly live stream where we feature a conversation with a guest to discuss technology and where we do technical demonstrations and more. Tetrate is the enterprise service mesh company. Much of our focus is on service meshes, Istio, Envoy, Kubernetes, and more. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Eitan Suez to episode 7 of Tetrate Tech Talks. Let me go ahead and bring up our landing page and share with you the URL to our landing page, which will make things a lot easier in terms of collecting all of the links that I'm about to share with you in this episode. You don't need to bother with it as long as you have this one link to rule them all, as it were. Anyhow, welcome. I'd like to uh, offer that you come on the comments and say hello, so that we have more of a two-way street rather than me just speaking to you all. I'm coming to you from Valencia, Spain today. Today's date is Friday, May 20th, and it marks the end of the KubeCon EU conference, which just ended maybe an hour ago or so. And this is the subject of our episode. So without further ado, let's dig right into it, so to speak, into episode 7, my KubeCon report. So the time is 9 a.m. Pacific time if you're joining us from the United States, or noon Central, and here it's 6 p.m. Valencia time, so to speak. So let's go ahead and dig right into it. So Tetrate Tech Talks, for those of you who are new, who are joining us for the first time, are a series of broadcasts to YouTube and LinkedIn Live that are all about learning and sharing knowledge around the technologies that Tetrate works with, that is Kubernetes and service mesh and so on. And one of the objectives is to get to know the diverse members of the community and to dig into the technology, of course, and in the process to have a great deal of fun as well. So I am indeed enjoying myself very much. My name is Eitan Suez. I work at Tetrate and I love to talk tech. And if you're with us live, I invite you to say hello. Okay, so let's begin with just a recap of past episodes. Last week we had, and we'd like to thank Adam Kotwozinski from Workday, who was our guest, and he gave us a deep, well, technical presentation on Envoy and Kafka, which is a very interesting intersection. And the one thing that I'd like to point out with respect to that presentation is that Adam was generous enough to share with us all of the resources that pertain to the talk that he gave. So if you want to access his presentation, he went ahead and put a copy up on SlideShare, for example, and there it is. And as well as his blog entries about his work with Envoy and Kafka, namely the Kafka broker filter and the Kafka mesh filter. So that's all there for you to sort of peruse at your leisure. And then also we had a special episode yesterday. I hope you tuned in for that one. That was a great deal of fun, our fireside chat on Envoy Gateway, which was quite an episode, and I'll have more to say about that later in the context of the episode. And as always, all our past episodes are available on our YouTube playlist, and there is the link. So avail yourself to it if you need to watch any of our past episodes. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to proceed with the episode proper. In this episode, I give you my report from from KubeCon in Europe, from Valencia, Spain, as I saw it throughout the week, and it breaks down into the following three categories, so to speak. On May 16th, which was the first day of the conference, Tetrate held its Immersion Day. On May 17th, there was another co-located event that was part of KubeCon known as Service MeshCon, which obviously has a direct bearing to Tetrate and to all of us who are interested in service mesh. And then the conference proper, which took place Wednesday through Friday, May 18th through May 20th. So let's dig into it. I've got a lot that I want to share, and let's begin with Monday. So Tetrate hosted its own KubeCon co-located event in Valencia, Spain, where we held a variety of keynotes. I apologize, I'm not sure what's happening with my voice. We had a variety of keynotes, talks, community talks, workshops, and announcements. It was really an event-filled day, and we were very grateful to all the folks who came and registered for the event. It was an all-day event at a nearby venue near the conference center, the Circotel Sorolla Palace. We had keynotes from our CEO, Varun Talwar. We had a surprise announcement. This was a stream of Matt Klein. Matt Klein wasn't here in person. He did a sort of live stream from California, where we witnessed or got to hear from him directly about his announcement of the Envoy Gateway project, which I'll have more to say about that shortly. Our head of product, Zach Butcher, gave a fascinating keynote about service mesh and security. And we also had a closing keynote at the end of the day given by Louis Ryan, principal engineer from Google. We had two conference tracks. One was dedicated to community talks, and the other to workshops for those of you, those of us who wanted more of an educational track to learn about Envoy, Istio, and WebAssembly and such technologies. Those workshops were held by myself and my colleague Peter Yoshevitz, and we provided a wonderful sort of we sort of dressed up our presentation into a sort of appetizer, main course, and dessert type. It was 3 talks on the 3 main technologies that we work with: Envoy, Istio, and WebAssembly. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that we, as always, make our materials available to you for free, and these are our course materials, and so that the ones that we delivered at KubeCon at our Immersion Day. And so if you're curious to dig in and you want to learn about Envoy, there's an introduction to Envoy Lab. It's a very hands-on, followed by introduction to Istio, which is quite a lengthy lab, but chock full of great information. And as well as our sort of dessert lab, which was all about extending Envoy and Istio with WebAssembly. Now, if you're also looking for the slides that go along with our workshops, you'll find them on our Tetrate community Slack channel. So I wanted to point that out and let you know that even though if you were not there at the conference in person or at this Immersion Day specifically, you can actually access all of our material. The day culminated in a happy hour. And the big news from our Immersion Day was the announcement by the Envoy community, namely, and the announcement from Matt Klein about the collaboration of the Envoy Gateway project, a new project. The day ended with a happy hour, which was I felt really well deserved. And I've got a few photos to share with you. So why don't we go into a little bit of a slideshow. So this is the main entrance hallway at the conference center, where I picked up my badge the day before the conference started. This was on Sunday. I think they did a remarkable job on those the theme for the conference. Here is the Tetrate crew right outside the Circotel Sorolla Palace. The night before the Immersion Day started, it was wonderful to get to spend time with my colleagues and get to know each other. That was just terrific. And Immersion Day took place in 2 ballrooms, and this was sort of on the monitor. They showed basically where the events were taking place. Here's the monitor outside the Ricati ballroom where the main events took place. I snapped up a couple of photos before folks started showing up of the space in which we were going to spend the rest of the day together. So this was maybe about 15-20 minutes before start. And then we had a variety of talks that took place here, as well as the sort of screening of Matt Klein from California announcing Envoy Gateway. Here we see, not too clearly, but Zach Butcher, head of product, giving his keynote talk. Here's a slightly more zoomed in one. Now you know the public Wi-Fi for for the hotel. No big deal. And here again, another screenshot from the back of the room while a panel was being held on, it was a discussion between all of the maintainers of the Envoy Gateway project who were all present and available to talk about it. And you could tell the degree of interest was quite high, which was wonderful. We've had great conversation around. So another talk. Here's a separate ballroom where we held our workshops, and it was I'm happy to report there was a great deal of interest. We actually had to bring in a few extra tables to accommodate everyone who wanted to attend. And in the front of that room, you see Peter Yoshevitz, my colleague, is giving an explanation of the architecture of Envoy. This is not such a clear picture. That's me in the background there talking about Istio. That was session number 2. There's 2 or 3 snapshots of me explaining Istio, and I loved the interaction with the audience. For those of you who were there, I really enjoyed getting to know you and talking to you about Istio. So that was Immersion Day. That was day 1, filled with activity. It was wonderful. Now, allow me to digress for just a minute and tell you a little bit about something I've been playing with, which is this idea of making labs available in a friction-free environment. That's something I'm working with. It's a work in progress. I'll give you the usual caveat or the disclosure that it's experimental. But I'm personally rather in love with this project. It's called Killer Coda. And if you haven't heard about it, the whole motivation for the product is there in that blog entry that I show, that I link to on my landing page there. And it's basically an attempt to create a free service for creating labs that run inside your browser. And the name, of course, reflects the fact that it's really inspired by Katacoda, which was perhaps the first or the former system that used to do exactly that. But for a variety of reasons, there was a need to sort of create a separate project, which is called Killer Coda. And I've been experimenting with it. And what I've done is I've taken a stab at creating drafts of 2 of the 3 labs that we delivered at KubeCon. And there's the URL to my personal page in Killer Coda is right there. And anyone, literally anyone, can come in here and look at various scenarios that I've encoded. And so, and it's just as simple as clicking through one of these scenarios. And if you're familiar with Katacoda, this will look rather familiar, where on the left-hand side, you have lab instructions. On the right-hand side, you have a terminal with tools pre-installed and artifacts made available for you in advance, with this idea of following the instructions and running various commands as you sort of work your way through the lab without having to do all of the heavy lifting, all of the setup. Now, this is an Envoy lab, so the Funky CLI is already installed, and here we see we're running Funky, and then we can actually step through some of these instructions. In this case, we're looking at a configuration file, and we could try to run Envoy with that configuration file. So it's just really, really easy to get started through this environment, and that's what's got me really excited. So check them out and let me know what you think. The URL is rather simple, killercoda.com/EitanSuez. That's my particular portal, but there are plenty of other things there. And you see there, the second lab is one on Istio. So if you want to learn a little bit about Istio, but you don't want to stand up your own cluster, you can literally just click a button, watch Istio install in front of your eyes, and then go through this scenario and then familiarize yourself with Istio. We're sort of lowering the bar. So again, this is experimental. The product is still in beta, and but you're free to use this at your leisure and derive some value from it and learn from it. Okay, well, let's carry on. Enough with Katacoda. Let's go back to our little outline here, and let me delve next into a terrific event for which we did a special episode of our Tech Talks. And if you've missed it, that's just because we literally did this. The idea for it sort of was born and grew up, and we set it up within a few days of the event actually happening. But it was really a terrific one where we invited Matt Klein and Louis Ryan from Google and Joe Beda from VMware representing Contour, which is one of the projects that's partnering on the Envoy Gateway the collaboration and the project itself, for a fireside chat with our CEO Varun and your host Eitan, myself as the sort of moderator, trying to interview these gentlemen and ask them some pointed question about this project, learning more about Envoy Gateway, what the meaning of it is, what the meaning of that collaboration is. If you're curious to learn more, definitely check out the Envoy Proxy blog, written or drafted by Matt Klein, introducing the Envoy Gateway and the motivation for the project and some of the background and the history. Definitely check out the GitHub repository that was created for it in the Envoy Proxy organization, and orienting yourself to what this is all about. I think it's a really exciting project that promises to really make Envoy much easier to consume as an Ingress controller. That's really the in a very standard fashion to sort of unify the many offerings that exist today, and to sort of stop the duplication of effort that's been taking place by multiple parties around the same product. Here is Tetrate's blog post on the announcement, the gateway to a new frontier, which is definitely worth a read. And I'd love to see when these news get picked up by different portals. The New Stack wrote an article about how Envoy Gateway offers to standardize Kubernetes Ingress. That's really exciting in my opinion. All the links out there, feel free to check it out. The basic idea is to use the Kubernetes Gateway API, which is still, I suppose, a work in progress today. It's in alpha stages, as the mechanism or the interface to configuring Ingress, which will be backed by Envoy. That's the general idea, but that's not the only that's only the first major objective of the project. There are other objectives as well to increase the scope even beyond Kubernetes. Okay, and if you want to watch a replay of our tech talk, of course, just click on that link, and there it is. And rather than play it, I just want to show you a quick screenshot of it. This is what it looks like, and we had Matt and Joe and Louis and Varun there, and the conversation was rather stimulating. I personally very much enjoyed it, and thank you to our guests for coming on. That was yesterday, and the recording is there on YouTube and LinkedIn. All right, so day 2 of the conference. This was Tuesday, and Tuesday was dedicated, at least to, I was dedicated to the Service Mesh Con event, which was yet another of the many co-located events taking place at KubeCon EU. The event started with a series of keynotes, which I'll show you a few snapshots from there in just a second, and then followed by a series of talks from members of the community and some of the vendors in the space. And we also had a booth there along with some of the other vendors, and an interesting coincidence as well, where I got to meet another, I suppose, I was going to say colleague, another individual who works in the service mesh space by the same name as me. So that was a fun little coincidence. And so here you see, this is Craig Box from Google, who did the introductory talk about Service Mesh Con, and it was rather humorous. He chose to sort of represent all of the parties there through a sort of karaoke skit. These videos are going to be available in a couple of weeks on YouTube, and you're going to have to watch it. It was quite humorous, where he sort of associated the theme song with each of the main actors in the space. Here you see also, this is also Craig Box, doing his song about Kong and about eBPF and so on. There is Zach Butcher, our head of product, giving Tetrate's keynote on the Service Mesh Con day. And here's my colleague Gonzalo, who's sitting in the audience alongside me, watching the keynote. There's Zach again. We took quite a few photos of him sort of in action. And I found it a very interesting talk, and where he just really discussed the evolution of Service Mesh, where it's going, and giving you a concrete vision for some of the capabilities that it's going to be, that it offers today, and where it's going in the future. So the proliferation of Service Mesh everywhere, the fact that our product, something I haven't spoken about in prior episode, our product, the Tetrate Service Bridge, is a product that makes service mesh available in everywhere in the enterprise in one's entire infrastructure. And I'll have more to say about that in future episode. This is another service mesh vendor giving her, this is a CEO of another vendor that is giving her talk about service meshes as well, her keynote. Here we have another, this is a subsequent talk from a gentleman from France, giving a talk about service meshes and the particular activity that they're working on and developing right now. This is right outside that room, the Tetrate booth. So there's a couple of booths. There were 2 or 3 booths out there. I think this was when we were setting up. Here is my colleague Mark having a chat or conversation with one of the attendees. And this is the famous Eitan and Eitan photo where we're both of us are working with service meshes and happen to have the same name. That was kind of humorous. Another photo of our booth. It was nothing fancy, as you can see there. And finally, another couple of screenshots of Zach in action at Service MeshCon. So it's wonderful to interact with everyone and get to know the members of that community. This was one of the more important points of Zach's keynote, the fact that the mesh forms a security kernel and how Envoy serves as a policy enforcement point in that kernel. Right, it plays a very important role, of course. Okay, service mesh everywhere. That was the title. And his final slide, of course, obligatory slide, is that Tetrate is indeed hiring. We're expanding, we're growing, and if you are so inclined, of course, contact us and let us know if you'd like to join Tetrate. Okay, these are just another couple of screenshots, photographs of speakers in action at Service MeshCon. These were some of the subsequent talks that were given later. All right, let's carry on. So that was day 2, that was Tuesday. And finally on Wednesday, KubeCon EU formally started. And it started with keynotes, it started with a bang, as you can see in this first screenshot here. This is a long line of entrance at the entrance to the conference center, but it moved rather briskly, so it wasn't too bad. And this is just I have a couple of snapshots that I sort of took while the keynote was going on and some of the community introductions were being made. Everyone being rather excited. One of the main technical keynotes on the first day was from Mercedes-Benz, where they discussed their journey to DevSecOps, their journey to Agile, their journey to Kubernetes, and how they went from really being a closed source shop a few years back to really embracing open source. And as you can tell in this slide, they're also talking about the distribution of their footprint in terms of Kubernetes clusters and CNCF project adoption across 3 continents. So that was always I always enjoy to see stories like this where enterprises really have accomplished something significant and were able to modernize and solve many of the problems through the adoption of open source projects, and many of them, of course, being CNCF projects. There you see just a few photos of the conference center itself. This is the hallway, and to the right and left were the breakout rooms as well as showroom floors. A beautiful space overall. And this is a few snapshots taken before the showroom floor was open. This is just before we started setting up our booth, which I think you'll agree is I think was really nicely done. There is our booth. There's my colleague Bas setting up, and yeah, everybody's sort of getting everything up and running. Here is a snapshot of some of the Envoy Gateway maintainers who came by the booth. They had sort of a Meet the Maintainers event, I think on Wednesday. And it was great to meet them in person. Yeah, lots of visitors to our booth. And this is where really we spent a lot of our time just interacting with folks interested. And it really spanned the whole spectrum. And what I mean by that is from anyone who knew nothing about service meshes, which was a wonderful opportunity to give them sort of an extemporaneous lesson on the subject, and other attendees, obviously, who already knew service mesh quite well and were really interested in what Tetrate had to offer in that space, and it gave us a chance to share with the world some of the many things we've been working with. Our Tetrate Service Bridge product, which is the enterprise service mesh which can really let you adopt and run service mesh in production across an entire infrastructure spanning multiple clouds with multi-tenancy. I'll have more to say about it in a future episode, of course. So yeah, lots of photos taken at different moments from the showroom floor of other conversations. This is me, and I don't think I gave Peter a chance to really take his mask off before I snapped this photo, but this is me and Peter at our booth. There's another one of the Envoy Gateway maintainers, Bas working really busily at maybe setting up a demo or something of that sort. This is me and Peter walking the showroom floor and interacting with some of the members of other booths as well. Yeah, more photos. This is me explaining Tetrate Service Bridge to a variety of really interested parties. This was terrific to have sort of a cluster of people busily talking and exchanging ideas. There's Mark and Peter again. And this was a great one. So Varun Talwar actually came on an interview with theCUBE. So if you go and visit thecube.net, you'll actually be able to replay Varun's interview, where he talks obviously about Tetrate and to the wider community. This is a screenshot from our special fireside chat, which took place last night. Again, the video in full is available on our Tetrate Tech Talks playlist in our YouTube channel, so check it out. And this leads us to sessions. So surprisingly, I came in thinking that I would be attending a ton of sessions, and the truth is, you're there really networking and talking to people and interacting with them on the showroom floor, and that was really a much smaller part of the conference than I originally thought. And it's no surprise. I've attended conferences for many years, and I remember in my first years at conferences, I was really keen on attending as many sessions as I could. These days, you can watch the recordings later, of course, and really get to interact with the people who are there on the ground, network and revisit with old colleagues, old acquaintances. I've had a couple of colleagues from VMware drop by our booths, and it was just overall terrific. But this is a talk that was given by Daniel Bryant. It was entitled "From Kubernetes to PaaS," and that really piqued my interest, given my background with Pivotal and Cloud Foundry and the platform as a service, the notion of a platform as a service for running workloads. So that was a really interesting talk. Who you see at the very background, of course, is the speaker, Daniel Bryant with Ambassador Labs, who gave a wonderful summary of where we are, so to speak, and all of the CNCF projects that sort of mesh into that actually are the components that make up maybe the future platform as a service. All of the building blocks are there, and I believe there are products out there that are beginning to assemble these products together into more of a comprehensive platform. Yeah, my former employer VMware being one of them. All right, this is a screenshot of a book that Daniel Bryant was highly recommending in the course of his talk. And if you want to see the whole talk, again, the recording is going to be made available. This is the page for the specific talk in question. Again, it's linked from our Tech Talks landing page, from the episode 7 page specifically. And also there is his actual deck is available here as well if you want to run through it. So that's terrific. Okay, and let's carry on. So in terms of details, if you really want to see some of the session recordings and the keynotes, everything will be available publicly on the CNCF YouTube channel by Monday, the 6th of June. That is CNCF's promise. I just got the email just a half hour ago, posting sort of a farewell for all the conference attendees. So by June 6th, which is, I guess, just a couple of weeks away, you'll have all of those recordings available on the CNCF YouTube channel. And I've got a few more pictures that I'd like to share with you. This is sort of a team dinner that we did, I think, on Tuesday night. It was just a wonderful time getting to know our colleagues, especially after this long COVID period where we'd all worked remotely together. The conference also hosted this wonderful event at Masia Al Damar, which is a sort of a farm or an orchard with lots of orange trees, and it was just a beautiful venue with a number of interesting spaces where they had music and typical Spanish food. It was really terrific, and Spain and Valencia and oranges and palm trees and tons of attendees and drinks and hors d'oeuvres. This is a giant paella a pan, I guess, in which they had to build this huge fire just to cook this paella, and you could see some attendees lining up and looking at everything going on. They had this pool where some attendees felt like they needed to wade their feet in the water. It was just a terrific, relaxed environment. Here's another photo right there. And then this is one of the keynotes and one of the subsequent days. I think it might have been Thursday or Friday morning. I think this was from Friday morning. And I actually managed to capture, as they were doing a recap of the status of all of these many CNCF projects of the Envoy project, which is graduated into the CNCF, and the Envoy Gateway Initiative was recapped here as well, which was terrific. So it gives you a little bit of an inkling for what the venue was like and some of the keynote presentations as they took place. Okay, here was another keynote given by a fellow at a company, one of the Nordic companies, talking about how they do blue-green deployments of Kubernetes clusters and the specific tools that they used and the whole history of how their tooling has evolved. It was a rather interesting talk. And what else? I think that does it for pictures, for photos. And I think that wraps up my summary of the conference. So I hope you find this rather interesting. I certainly did. This was my KubeCon report. Now, before I leave you, I also want to reiterate a few important things in terms of looking ahead at future events. You can always go and visit the Tetrate events landing page to see what we're up to next. And you can see in June, we're already lining up another event. This is a virtual event online where we'll be discussing API security with the Envoy Gateway with Tetrate's Daniel Hansen and Matt Klein from the Envoy project. And I'm sure we'll also be posting some June events for further workshops, maybe another iteration of our Istio60 workshop, and maybe our WebAssembly extension of proxies with WebAssembly workshop will be on this page as well. Okay, I'm glad my voice is finally holding up. I'm not sure, I was a little hoarse earlier in the hour. So that's Tetrate events. And I'd like to also remind you, of course, our Tetrate Certified Istio Administrator by Tetrate is a certification exam very much in the same vein as the CKA and CKAD and the CKS certification exams. So if you've gotten those exams, I think that in my mind, the next logical step is to really take a look at Istio and to then, when you feel ready, present yourself to take the certification exam. The exam is paid, but there are a variety of ways in which you can get significant discounts. One of them is to visit our Tetrate Academy. And by simply taking our Istio Fundamentals course and completing it, you can get a 50% off coupon, which is terrific. Also, if you want an additional 30% off, here is a coupon code that you can use. All right. Finally, and this is what I always close with, is join the conversation on our Slack channel. So the Slack channel is Tetrate Community, tetrate-community.slack.com. And that Slack channel, we have a number of, actually in that Slack organization, we have a number of channels dedicated to specific activities, whether it's support for the certification exam or support for the various workshops we run, as well as the links to all of these resources and our slide decks as well. And again, remember, feel free to ask questions in that Slack channel. You have direct access to Tetrate engineers, which is, in my mind, a wonderful resource that you're stuck on a problem or you're trying to understand something better. We're there listening, and we'll receive your message and we'll try to answer. If we haven't answered recently, please accept my apology. We've been so busy with so many activities here at KubeCon, but we'll be remedying that shortly. All right, so that's episode 7. a summary of the week at KubeCon EU in Valencia, Spain, by Eitan Suez. It's slightly shorter than my prior episodes, but that's all I've got for now. Over and out. And again, thank you for your time and thank you for joining. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.